The PNC Roundtable.
Hello, this is Ric DeVore, Regional President of PNC Bank, and thank you for listening to PNC Roundtable celebrating its 5th year. It's on this show that we tackle some of the region's top issues with people who truly make a difference in our region.
Welcome into the PNC Roundtable. Hi, I'm Paul W. Smith, along with Regional President of PNC, Ric DeVore. Ric, nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Paul, as always.
And we have a very special guest who founded her company in 1990 with 4 benchmarks in mind. First, set the bar high for what a corporation should do. Second, create jobs. Offer people an opportunity to succeed and change their station in life, for number 3. And fourth, make community and charity work a core part of the business. She has accomplished all that and way more as the founder and CEO of Strategic Staffing Solutions and an all-round good guy, as a woman, an all-round good guy throughout the city of Detroit and getting things done. The founder and CEO of Strategic Staffing Solutions, Cynthia J. Pasky. Cindy, it's so nice to have you here with us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you.
And Ric, I know you know from all the things that you're involved with all the time that she's around all the good things happening.
Oh, she really is, and I see Cindy everywhere, and she's pretty persuasive. And I'll be seeing her more here soon as being on the board of Downtown Detroit Partnership. So
excellent.
And that's really Cindy. I mean, was no help from Mr. Penske yet, anyway. But,
you mean twisting your arm
yes,
or
exactly.
Convincing you?
No, Cindy's pretty convincing. So.
She is indeed. And the Downtown Detroit Partnership has a very aggressive plan to bring more people downtown, develop more places where people can live, work, and play, and stay a while, as we say, by 2016. And I want to get a little update on that, Cindy.
Well, we do, and I think that the first thing, and I'm very, very pleased and excited that Ric is going to join our board, and so thank you for that. And we do, and the thing I want to point out about our plan is it isn't a 5-year plan, it isn't a 10-year plan, it's a 3-year plan. And so it will be something that we can track and report on, which we will every quarter. And our plan is to bring 15,000 new employees downtown, and that'll bring the total to 100,000. Which will mean that the commercial district around Campus Martius will be completely occupied. And we also plan to bring 1,200 new residents downtown, which will bring our total population to 7,000. Live Downtown and Live Midtown programs are still in play and have been renewed and will continue, and we have new participants. And I'm sure, you've been there. It's walkable, it's clean, it's safe, it's inviting.
It's everything we hoped it would be, and most people didn't believe it could be again. And it is.
That's absolutely.
It is. It is. And every single day we can measure progress. We can either measure progress because we bring another unit, like when we brought the Broderick Tower online, the day it opened, it was 89% leased.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so when we bring the David Whitney online, I expect we will see the exact same thing happen. We have waiting lists at our units in the city.
And there's been so much talked about that's been negative and bad as we continue with the city troubles in terms of city government and bankruptcy and court trials and even election woes, and just the list goes on and on and on. But the reality is our Detroit business community is playing a key role in an ongoing revitalization, a transformation of downtown Detroit. It is underway. It's been underway for a while now. And I never want that to be lost in all the noise of all the other bad stuff. But there's some great things happening, and maybe some examples from the two of you that we don't hear about often enough. The way the business community is revitalizing and transforming downtown Detroit. I'm going to let you start, Ric.
Well, we've all seen the headlines with Roger Penske, leading the effort of, the police cars and emergency vehicles. But there's a lot more that goes behind the scene. Cindy mentioned safety, and the Downtown Detroit Partnership funds, not only efforts around safety, but also about cleaning up downtown. And, I think when people ask me, what's different this time, how's this really going to work, it really is associated with the partnership of the business community.
Absolutely.
And that's really what's been the catalyst for this, working in tandem, with city government. But I really think that's what really excites me is you start seeing people actually doing things versus just talking about things. that's the big difference to me. And we just need to get more. Oftentimes it's a chicken and egg thing, right? I mean, the retail can't come because you don't have the office to support it. You don't have the residential to support it. It's no different than a convention center and a hotel. Hotel guys build the convention center, will come. Convention center guys build the hotels, will come. Getting this kind of a standoff situation. And what I like about Cindy's leadership and I like about the Downtown Detroit Partnership is they've just rolled up their sleeves. We got to start somewhere,
Right.
And they've gotten started. And it's pretty exciting.
And Cindy, you said, and the first time I'm hearing it, is that some of these plans that were used, that you were a part of, and we know Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, we know the folks, Quicken Loans, those are being renewed. We're going to continue those
That's right.
projects, if you will, that have been very successful,
Yes.
getting people to come and live in the city.
That's right. Both Live Midtown and Live Downtown are going to be renewed. We've got new companies that have signed on to participate in the Live Downtown program. And, I'll give you an example. Their DTE, we all know they renovated their headquarters, and if we don't, we should know, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And Ric and I have had a chance to see that for different reasons. But they've also purchased 3 parcels of blighted land all around their headquarters. They're going to turn those into a green space that's available to the public. They have 10,000 employees now. And so when you hear all of the headlines and everything, you have the quiet movers and shakers as well. That Jerry Anderson's vision is, I can take this and I can close the gap to the entertainment district.
And you know what? I have to tell you the truth. I didn't know Jerry was even in the midst of doing that. We learned about it most recently on our Opportunity Detroit program.
Right.
And I thought, I didn't even hear that DTE was quietly, and maybe that's why, because they were doing it quietly, buying these parcels of land to do this kind of development.
And AT&T has put $650 million into Detroit's wireless and wireline networks in the last couple of years. So when all of our new young residents and new young employees are downtown and they're at Campus Martius and they're walking around, they can use their gadgets. And if they can't use their gadgets, they're not going to be there, right?
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I like to use my gadgets.
We're all, and many of us have multiple gadgets.
I got to tell you, I was traveling internationally, and my smartphone all of a sudden became dumb, and I was stuck.
Yes.
I stopped remembering phone numbers as soon as I learned my iPhone would remember my phone numbers.
Right.
When they all drop off and your emails and everything drops off, you're like on an island.
You are on an island. Yes.
It was horrible. I just thought of that for a moment. Now, we have these journalists that truly parachute into Detroit. They see the Packard plant that's back in the news again. They see the train station that's never left the news. They see the blighted buildings, thousands and thousands, that slowly but surely we're doing something with. But they take that opinion away with them. Forbes just recently had the thing again about being the most dangerous city in America. It's overwhelming. I just wish there were a magic way to reverse it. One way to reverse it is to get rid of the blight and to get rid of these problems and get online. But what else can we do?
Well, I think at DDP what we do is we speak with facts. So if you just think about the few comments that I've made, it's all been supported with a number, with acres, with dollar investments, with actual numbers, and you can't change someone if they've come here and they've already decided what the story's going to be. But you can at least force them to take the facts, which is not the same as PR or trying to sell. And then we have about 3,500 journalists from around the world that we work with, that we contact on a regular basis through the Detroit News Hub. We have a PR team that we put together that is all of the PR individuals from not just the corporations that sit on the Downtown Detroit Partnership Board, but other corporations, so that we key together on messaging and then simple things like everybody turn your lights on when the baseball game's going to be on, right? Because national TV is going to be on. When the reporters all show up for the auto show, they'll have welcome packets that we worked with the Convention Bureau to put together in their hotel room. And what it'll have is it'll have facts. It'll actually have real facts for them to look at. So if they've already decided what they're going to say, I kind of look at it and say, that's not the audience we want to go after anyway. But there is a group of individuals that, if they don't have an opinion and you can actually put real stats in front of them, then when they start to form their opinion, it's a realistic one.
And we do benefit in many respects of, sadly, lowered expectations. They come in with a lowered expectation and a bad opinion. And thankfully, at least for the time being, we are so able to overcome that.
Yes.
And they go, wow, this is a lot better than I expected.
Yes.
And we won't be able to always depend on that, but
No.
but for right now, it does help.
We still have that ramp-up period. And, I think the auto show is a really good example. I mean, I live downtown, and I walk the dog in the Riverwalk, and I have an opportunity. I run into a lot of journalists from outside of the country, and they're easy to spot. And they all want to meet the dog, and I'll talk to them, and they're just like
They're easy
they
to spot, and they all want to meet
the
the dog. Ignore the beautiful woman walking the dog. It's the dog.
And they want their picture taken with her. It's just amazing, but it gives me a chance to say, so what do you think of our riverfront? What do you think of Campus Martius? Have you been here? And 201, they're like, I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea.
Right. It is. It's true. There's so much that's been going on and continues to go on, Ric.
I think the biggest thing, and I was listening to you this morning, is we also, as leaders, need to enroll our employees and take leadership stands for the region. Many times, we're our own worst enemy. We ourselves are, in effect, I think, moving this negativity forward. And so we can't be part of that. We need to separate politics, separate the bankruptcy, and try to concentrate on economic viability. And it's incumbent on every leader to really understand, what the real facts are. I get very frustrated when people ask me questions about maybe the EAA or me for the DPS schools, and then I say, have you been in one? Have you been with the kids? Have you been in one of these schools that we're talking about, say, in the EAA? Well, no. Well, then, until you do, you really... it's just like everything else. I think you really have to get involved. And you've heard me say this on this program over and over, Paul. You could probably repeat it. It's one thing to write a check. It's another thing to write a check and get involved. And we have to enroll our employees, too, because if they're not telling the right story, then I think we really have a problem.
Well, you've done such a good job, Ric DeVore, with PNC, and it really is. I've said this a number of times, and you know what I'm going to say. It's in your DNA, helping kids, and that is where we have to begin, with the children. And that's really working. And to step above the children, it's the young people who are helping turn the city of Detroit around. Young people who had to go to Chicago because there were no jobs here, and they're coming here. And even young people who were in Chicago, Los Angeles, or New York who didn't necessarily leave here to go there, but they are coming here because they hear of the opportunity on the social networks and elsewhere.
Right. And they're not encumbered by some of the things that we have been, maybe growing up here and so forth. And I'm optimistic. If you look at the Young Leaders Group of Detroit Economic Club, maybe a couple of years ago, 260 members, now over 850.
Yes.
Wow.
That really excites me. And they really want to be involved. They want to make a difference. They live, work, play here. And so those kinds of things, I when you get up in the morning, that excites me. That kind of firepower in our young folks. By the way, that's 36 and under. So
right. That's young.
Is that what we consider young folks now?
Yeah, we keep raising the bar.
Yeah, I think
that seems real.
I think 60. I think 60 and under should be considered young folks. But
I'm
nobody cares what I think. but be that as it
I'm
may,
all for that, Paul.
Yeah, we'll take that.
It was a big part of the mayoral campaign, the whole idea of neighborhoods, because there's this idea that somehow or another somebody has it wrong, but to think that as we build up the city that somehow we're ignoring the neighborhoods. No, we're building up the city, and we need to build up the neighborhoods too, and we need to revitalize our neighborhoods. It's just a little more difficult when you're talking in terms of revitalizing neighborhoods, but everybody knows how important that is. I'm not sure how we go about it or even how long something like that might take, Cindy.
Well, I think... I don't think there isn't any one answer, but I can tell you at DDP, one of the things that we do is whatever we lobby for, whether it's a change, a legislative change, an ordinance change, a licensing change, we always vet it against the question, will this be something that neighborhood developments can use? Will it benefit their ability to make a change? Because we have, in many instances, we have the resources and the ability to drive those type of changes and get those requests handled. So it always should work again to serve the neighborhood as well. And a good example, we have a lighthouse program that corporations participate in, and it's a place that you can go 24 hours a day, and you can get help if you're lost. You can get help if your tire went flat. You've lost your friend. You don't know where you're going. And the one of the commanders who was representing the police chief sits on our board, and he said they're going to start rolling that same concept out to the neighborhoods. And they've got a pilot neighborhood in gas stations and restaurants, and they're going to put in blue lights and say, we'll be available to help someone 24/7 no matter what they need. So what we try and do in Detroit is, one, we need to create jobs and have people here, and that creates a tax base, and that helps all of Detroit, not just a part of Detroit. But then every program we put in place, we say, is this something that a neighborhood group, a development group, could actually use and work with as well? And that's one way to get there.
You know, it's funny. Here we are trying to get people to move downtown, to work downtown, to stay downtown, spend a little while downtown. But we're at like 99% residential occupancy right now. And here we are. We're trying to get more people to move downtown. Is there a place for them to live?
Well, there will be. We have the whole Capitol Park area, which all of those buildings now, the RFPs went out, the individual groups have been selected, and they'll start coming online the middle of next year and keep going forward. The David Whitney building will be online before that. And back to neighborhoods, if you look at Corktown, what you see happening is the whole movement. It's like, well, I can't get a spot downtown, but I can now get a spot in Corktown. And Corktown's going to have 10 new restaurants and bars come online in the next 6 months because more young people have moved in there because there wasn't anything immediately available. And that's a neighborhood. And that's helping that neighborhood, and it's helping it expand. So we're going to have both. We've got projects in place that are going to come online. I expect they'll be received just like the Broderick Tower was. And in the meantime, the neighborhoods around downtown are starting to see growth in people that are living there. And as we like to say at DDP, density is delicious, and it works.
That's really, if you really think about like Washington, D.C., it's density, density, density. There's the rooftops that makes the retail go. It makes everything go. And if you look at our success stories here, Southwest Detroit's a good example of probably some of the best density in the whole city. And I think, one of the things that strategic staffing is very much like PNC Bank is they tend to pick some things and try to do those things really well. And if you look at like the Fisher Foundation and Skillman, they too have picked a few things and be impactful and try to kind of a clustering, if you will, versus try to do everything. And we'd all love to do everything, but I think Corktown is taking kind of a page out of Southwest Detroit's kind of density. It really is about density.
Well, and also it's about individuals. And you two individuals, not to talk about you like you're not here, but you two individuals have become very philanthropic and gotten involved from a financial standpoint, and more importantly, more than the dollars, you've gotten your employees to get involved so that it's, as you had said earlier. And since Strategic Staffing Solutions founding, Cindy has made charity and community work a fundamental part of the company. Last year alone, over $1 million donated to various charities, but again, importantly, thousands of volunteer hours to charitable efforts. And that's part of what's going on. We hear about the big guys, and God bless the big guys.
Yes.
And you know who you are. And frankly, Cindy, you're one of the big guys. But the big guys that we can rattle off their names, and God bless them for what they're doing, but it's each and every one of us making a commitment one way or another, in whatever way we can, to the revitalization of the city of Detroit.
It's absolutely true, and I'm fortunate with S3. I get to travel all over the place and many spots in the world.
I should mention, even I forget, and I know how hard you've worked and how smart you've been, Cindy Pasky, founding Strategic Staffing Solutions just in 1990. Here you have this Detroit-based global IT and business servicing company for 27 branch locations, more than 2,000 team members in the U.S. and Europe, revenues of more than $200 million. ranking 16th among the largest staffing firms in all of the United States. So, I mean, this is... I forget sometimes just how big you are. That's why I said you are one of the big guys.
Wow, thank you. I don't think of myself that way, but,
Well.
we grew up here, and so I do think people forget that we are an international company, and so I appreciate that. And, when I travel, people ask me, we've always been headquartered in Detroit. I mean, we live in the city of Detroit, and they always ask me why we're here, and why I believe in Detroit. And one of the answers that I always say first thing is I have never been at all the cities that we do business anywhere in the world. I have never been anywhere where there are so many CEOs that are hands-on involved. Our teams are involved, but we're involved. We're at the meetings together. We're participating. Ric is in the school. He's working with the children. And that is absolutely unique to Detroit. And then you add the foundation support and the ability to have, like, our police chief sit on our board and be involved with our safety and security meeting. That's why we believe it'll work, because we're actually all there. It makes a difference.
It does. And Ric, you were running from a meeting to come here for the show today, and you're running to another event right from here, just as Cindy is, and frankly I am. It does take that kind of involvement.
It does.
It does, and if you want to enroll your employees, you have to, obviously demonstrate leadership. And if you don't, whether it's shoveling mulch or reading to children or taking care of animals, which is near and dear to Cindy's heart, you have to walk the walk as well. And then you can enroll those employees, and I think then and only then really make a meaningful difference.
Which, by the way, it's satisfying to walk the walk.
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's that old line of, the best gift is in giving, and not just receiving, giving. It makes you feel so much better doing good things. It really works.
It really does work. And, if you think about the world of business, that top of the pyramid is really narrow. So there's always going to be a handful of names that make it through history. And then there's going to be 90% of us that we're not going to be remembered, and that's okay. But if we're remembered because we created jobs, we helped someone who was homeless, we helped someone's child learn how to read, that's how you want to be remembered.
We all do what we can to tell the story of Detroit. And this is kind of worn out, but there was a long time that you'd be traveling and somebody say, "Where are you from?" And people didn't always say Detroit. They said, "I'm from suburbs of Detroit," or "from near Detroit," or something. You ask a person who lives, 30 miles outside of New York City, you say, "Where are you from?" "I'm from New York City." Where are you from?" "I'm from Chicago." Well, they really live in the suburbs. I do now know that many of us, are proudly saying, I don't happen to live in the city of Detroit, but when people ask where am I from, I say I'm from Detroit. Mm-hmm. And we need to do that. And the reaction, frankly, is still, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." No, you shouldn't be. Things are very good in Detroit. "Well, but you have that mayor who's in prison, and we've had our problems like Chicago and New York and everyone else. We've been in the fishbowl that's not been a very attractive one, but you should see what we are now and what we're becoming." And frankly, as Stephen Luigi Piazza says in our Opportunity Detroit, we're devangelists. Mm-hmm. We are evangelists out to tell the story about the opportunities that exist in the city of Detroit, because we're not making that up. They're very real.
No, they really are. And I'll tell you another thing that I've become more aware of since I've been back in Michigan, and that is that I think one of our strengths as well is there's a lot of private firms that are in the third, fourth generation. Mm-hmm. If you go to, for instance, Washington, D.C., there are not too many native people, Washingtonians, right? You go to Florida, and it's like, show me somebody in business 10 or 15 years.
California.
Mm-hmm.
Here, and I think those very deep, deep roots, whether we're talking about the Taubmans or the Fishers, there's all kinds of families. I'm remiss not naming Illich.
We'd have to go through a whole, and Penske. there's a lot of names.
Stroh.
And they really...
Stroh, absolutely.
And I think that gets them more committed. And Chris Illich yesterday just gave a very impassioned speech, somewhat. It wasn't a speech, but it was in front of 20 CFOs. And it was quite moving, quite frankly. He was like, and he started talking about his business of... raising funds for, small charitable groups. They, sell pizza and things.
The pizza kits.
Yeah. And he said it's more here than anywhere. So he had kind of a national view about it. And it was really, and I think that gets into the roots. The people that are still here are extremely committed.
We
and
are
more likely to volunteer.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
I absolutely agree. And you see it every single day, right? And
every day.
And
every day.
we work incredibly hard at creating jobs.
Jobs
all
are,
types of jobs.
It's all about jobs. It's always going to be all about
Right.
jobs. And we're trying to do the best we can to bring more jobs to Detroit. But part of that is letting people know that Detroit is better than they may think it is, perceive it to be,
Right.
what the image is in their mind. And that helps us attract more people with jobs. Nobody wants to move to a city where they think they're going to have a hard time bringing other people in that they need for their companies.
Well, it's true, and I think there's a couple of things. There's there's the program where Michigan corporations are looking to procure from Michigan corporations, and then there's Detroit businesses looking to procure from Detroit businesses. But then there's also a movement where we're all asking our suppliers to move to the city or have an office in the city. If you want to do business with us three, I want you here in the city of Detroit, and I'll be a really good customer and I'll be loyal. But my preference is that you have some presence here. And our theory is if we can get them here, they're going to want to stay. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of that.
Yes.
We are. You might be at the forefront of it, Cindy, but we're seeing other business leaders who are making it very clear that they want to do business with people who do have a footprint in Detroit.
Right.
And it makes good sense.
It does make good sense. And it's not, it's like I said, it's like once they get here, it's a good place to be. So it's not like we're asking them to, participate in something that isn't safe, clean, or inviting, or it doesn't have talent available, or arts, or culture, or sports, or fresh water, right?
We're not asking people to do anything that doesn't make good business sense, too.
Right.
A lot was made of when Peter Karmanos, and I hate the way things have ended up with Peter and CompuWare, but that aside, when Peter Karmanos was bringing CompuWare into Campus Martius, building this building, having this, there was the argument, well, he's doing it because he loves Detroit. Yes, he did do it because he loved Detroit, but he did it because it made good business sense, too.
Right.
And no one's asking anybody to do anything that doesn't make good business sense as well. But it can make great business sense being right in the heart of the city of Detroit.
No, it can. And, obviously he had a fiduciary to his shareholders, and I'm sure wouldn't have done it if it didn't make. It was good for Detroit, but it was also good for his shareholders. I'm highly confident of that.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to the Trailblazers when people were running out and the Illiches were running in, and it goes to the newest guy on the block, Dan Gilbert, who's buying every block, but he's doing it because it makes good business sense. I mean, all of this is positive, and it's all good. Final thoughts here. What do you say, Cindy, when people, you say, I founded this company and it's a Strategic Staffing Solutions and we're based in Detroit. And they say, oh, Detroit? What do you say?
I say, yes, Detroit. I say we chose to be headquartered there. It's a great city. There's amazing talent available. People want to work. We have an international airport. I can get anywhere in the world in a day for what I need to do. And we have everything that you would want in a good city.
And I know you feel the same way in terms of how you would say to people who you catch up with and say you're back with.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. And you mentioned the airport, but I'll tell you what, if you don't have an airport, like it's a classic, you don't appreciate something until it's gone, but we can get anywhere in the world. And quite frankly, I think there's a grittiness, a positive grittiness to this city, and I think when people come here, they embrace that.
Absolutely.
When I came into the studio just before we started our PNC Roundtable, I think I came in the middle of float envy. And I'm not saying that one person said my float's bigger than your float, but
ours is 100 feet. Hers is a lot bigger.
I wasn't gonna, but the fact is, S3 has a new float for the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and I know you're very excited about it. You just had the unveiling.
Well, thank you for asking. We are absolutely excited about it. It's our second float, and, we love cats and dogs and animals. Everybody knows that. And so and our goal with our float is to make children laugh. That's all we want. And it's 140 feet long.
Wow.
It's 14 feet high. We like to call it the world's longest convertible because anyone who knows me knows I'm also nuts about cars. And it's full of disco cats and dogs, and they're dancing and they're playing with bones. There's 100 big bones on it. And the disco ball survived from the first float, so it's in the last car, and it still spins.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes,
that's
thank you.
Very nice. That's exciting. We'll look forward to seeing it. We'll be there broadcasting the parade again on WJR, and we'll look for the PNC float too. That is apparently 40 feet shorter. But who's counting? But who's counting?
As long as the kids are smiling, we don't care.
Absolutely.
And as long as you throw money out from the float from PNC Bank, I mean, you can make up for that 40 feet.
Absolutely.
All right.
9 new floats this year, right?
9 new floats,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
And a
9.
and a longer route.
Yes.
Yeah, the longer route is fabulous and just makes great sense. What a wonderful opportunity for us to spend some time with the very successful Cynthia J. Pasky, founder and CEO of Strategic Staffing Solutions. She's in the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame, the Junior Achievement Hall of Fame. There's too many halls of fame for me to mention. One of the named, I guess, the most powerful woman in business by D Business Magazine. But most importantly, she is a lover of Detroit and an all-round good person who has given her skills, her ability, her talents to not only S3, but to all of us here in the city of Detroit. And for that, Cindy, we thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And we appreciate you being with us here on the PNC Roundtable. Ric DeVore gets the final word. He is, after all, the president.
Well, Paul, I would really say that I was excited about this guest because if you think of their competencies, they pick some things, they do them well, they enroll their employees, they care passionately about the community. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's very much like our DNA, as you and I talk about every month, and it really does. So I knew this would be not only a great guest, but it would be easy for me because it's the same kind of core values.
As now a part of the Downtown Detroit Partnership as well.
Right.
And that's it for our PNC Roundtable. We thank you all for being here, a part of it. I'll look forward to spending mornings with you, Monday through Friday, from 5:30 till 9 on WJR. In the meantime, now, for the regional president of PNC, Ric DeVore, and our special guest, Cynthia Pasky of Strategic Staffing Solutions, regards, Paul W. Smith.